True or false? You had a necklace made with 42 diamonds of the 42 times you considered getting proposed.
Well, yeah, it was more like it was more just a joke, but obviously people took it pretty literal. I was just trying to have an interesting story, and then it obviously,
and where it started right now, like this is my dwelling, you know, and it's like it started right here, just me being like, yo, I want to rap and I want to do this music thing and take it seriously. And I learned and I sat and I observed and I watched, and it's crazy to go on there.
By the spring of 2024, everything around Drake took a wild turn that nobody saw coming. What started as a few isolated shots suddenly turned into something way bigger, like the whole industry was moving in sync against him. Former collaborators, longtime rivals, and even some behind-the-scenes power players seemed to find common ground, all circling the same target. When Drake said it felt like 20 versus 1, he wasn't exaggerating. He was admitting that the wave against him had grown way too massive to brush off. This wasn't just another petty rap beef blowing up online. This was a full-blown collision of forces. Producers, rappers, singers, and even label legends started linking up, dropping tracks that echoed the same energy, the same shade, and the same direction, all at him. The message was loud and clear. Drake wasn't just being checked musically anymore. He was being pushed back culturally. And the timing, that's what made it explosive. These disses didn't just drop out of nowhere. They came after years of quiet competition, subtle tension, and personal issues that had been brewing under the surface. For over a decade, Drake held a one-of-a-kind spot in hip-hop, dominating charts, crossing genres, and running the business game from the inside. But now, that power was being questioned like never before. Drake's dominance didn't just win him love, it built envy too. What once looked like a few personal grudges started blending together, turning into a united front of frustration and resentment. Suddenly, entire albums were carrying themes of mistrust, loyalty, and betrayal. Even artists who weren't calling him name by name were standing on stages and dropping tracks that made their stance loud and clear. They weren't rocking with him anymore.
So I go on Instagram and Champagne Poppy posted this, right? Talking about we might have to start celebrating in private. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I don't get it. Zoom in. Like, I get it. I'm also an online hater. Like, I'm a hater too. Like, I get it. But like, for you to do this right behind them, it's crazy.
To understand how so many people moved in sync, you've got to go back and see where the cracks first started showing. And it all started with a producer, the one many believe lit the fuse that set this whole thing off. What began as quiet tension behind closed doors soon exploded into open shots. The first real spark didn't come from a rapper throwing bars. It came from Metro Boomin, the same Metro who had worked side by side with Drake for years, crafting some of the biggest anthems of his career. From the outside, their partnership looked untouchable. All hits and good vibes, but behind the curtain, things were getting shaky. By late 2022, Metro dropped Heroes and Villains, one of the most hyped producer albums of the year. But fans noticed something strange. Drake was nowhere to be found. Metro later explained that Drake had heard one of the tracks and wanted to jump on it, but by then, the project was already sealed. That little moment, small as it seemed, might have been the first domino that sent everything tumbling. Metro claimed it was nothing shady, just bad timing. But in an industry where being included means everything, that kind of exclusion hit different. The move didn't go unnoticed, and soon things started to heat up quietly behind the scenes. After Drake dropped his joint album with 21 Savage, Her Loss, and it started crushing Heroes and Villains in numbers and awards, the tension got real fast. When Her Loss kept winning Rap Album of the Year over Metro's project, the competition turned personal fast. Metro then posted, and just as quickly deleted, a message hinting that the awards were political and didn't mean much to him. But that delete didn't erase the moment. The frustration was out there for the world to see, even if it was only for a short time. Drake seemed to catch wind of it too, firing back indirectly, calling out people for tweet and delete behavior and moving in the shadows instead of standing on their words. He didn't drop any names, but everyone knew what he meant. Whatever trust or mutual respect had once existed between them was clearly breaking apart. Whether it started with the album snub, the award tension, or just plain ego, one thing was obvious: their relationship wasn't neutral. And while everyone expected Metro to speak up, he stayed silent, letting the energy speak for itself. Metro didn't drop interviews or throw shade online. He answered back the only way he knew how, through music. And he didn't pull up solo this time. His response brought in Future, flipping the whole situation into something way bigger. What started as quiet producer tension suddenly turned into a heavyweight clash that had the whole industry watching. Future's entry changed everything. He wasn't just another feature, he was the spark that made this feud explode. See, unlike Metro, Future and Drake had real history. Their joint projects and collabs had once owned radio, playlists, and every party in between. For years, they were seen as brothers in the game, an unbeatable duo. So when Future stepped into Metro's corner, people knew right away this wasn't just about business, it got personal. Nobody really knows where things went left between Drake and Future. Their last big collab was on Future's album, I Never Liked You. And even though the track went crazy, their partnership went completely silent right after. No follow-ups, no appearances, no love shown in public. In hip-hop, silence like that speaks volumes. Fans instantly started speculating, whispering about drama involving women, contracts, and behind-the-scenes moves that might have split one of rap's most powerful alliances. Metro shut those wild rumors down fast. He made it clear this wasn't about any romantic drama. It was about the music, plain and simple. The truth was way less messy, but way more real. Loyalty. Metro and Future had one of the tightest producer-artist bonds in the game, built over a decade of trust, hits, and consistency. So when Metro drew that line in the sand, Future didn't hesitate. He picked a side. And once he did, there was no turning back. That loyalty came to life when Metro and Future dropped We Don't Trust You. The project didn't need to name names. The title said it all. The whole album carried a sharp, cold message filled with talk of betrayal, suspicion, and distance. Every track felt like a warning shot, and even though Drake's name never came up, nobody doubted who they were aiming at. The tension wasn't hidden. It was blasted through the speakers.
A situation where Drake is now beefing with his top shooter, his #1 dude in the streets, is more serious than y'all think. People forget because we're already a year removed from this Kendrick Lamar and Drake rap battle. But when that rap battle was going on, Drake adopted a lot of beefs, including one with The Weeknd and XO and Cash. But that beef already existed before the rap battle. The rap battle just intensified it because The Weeknd picked sides.
Drake didn't just sit back though. He fired back with leaked diss records that went straight at Future. He flipped their history, hinting that he was the reason Future's rise even happened. And when it came to Metro, Drake kept it cutting, dismissing him with lines telling him to stay in his lane and just make the drums. By that point, what started as quiet tension had turned into an all-out storm shaking up the whole rap scene. The battle lines were drawn sharp, but Metro and Future weren't done yet, not even close. They started pulling in reinforcements, and the next name to step into the mix brought a whole different kind of energy. This wasn't just another alliance, it was personal history catching up, and the name that entered? Kendrick Lamar. His arrival flipped the situation from tense to legendary. Nobody else carried that kind of weight because his history with Drake ran deep, stacked with years of competition and unspoken rivalry. Back in the early 2010s, things actually looked cool between them. Drake had brought Kendrick on tour, showed him love publicly, and even worked with him when Kendrick was still breaking through. It looked like mutual respect, two artists on the rise, building together. But by 2013, everything shifted with one song, Control. Kendrick dropped a verse that shook the entire rap world, calling out nearly every major name in the game, including Drake. He framed it as pure competition, not beef, just a lyrical challenge to prove who really ran hip-hop. Most rappers took it like sport, but not Drake. He brushed it off publicly, questioning whether Kendrick could actually top him. But that calm response had a sting underneath. It showed he was bothered. After that, their relationship never bounced back. What followed were years of slick, coded lines and quiet jabs. Neither one ever went fully direct, but every fan could hear it. Both of them would take an aim, making sure the other felt every shot. As Kendrick's critical respect skyrocketed and Drake's chart dominance never slowed down, their rivalry turned into something way bigger than just rap. It became artistry versus power, respect versus numbers. Kendrick stood as the symbol of pure craft and lyricism, while Drake represented consistency, fame, and full-on control of the charts. By the late 2019s, after Kendrick dropped Damn, he disappeared from the spotlight, while Drake stayed everywhere, never letting his presence fade for a second. During Kendrick's quiet years, Drake started talking openly about who he saw as his real competition, and Kendrick's name was always on that list. But at the same time, Drake threw slick jabs at Kendrick's long breaks, acting like being more consistent made him the superior artist. That distance between them made the tension seem cold, maybe even paused, but never truly gone. Then Drake added Feud by teaming up with J. Cole and labeling them the Big Three. It was a move that quietly placed Kendrick under a label he never agreed to, and that power play mattered. So when Kendrick finally decided to come back, he came ready. Every move was intentional. The timing, the collabs, the message, nothing was random. And when he spoke again, it wasn't with slick metaphors or hidden shots. It was a statement. The silence ended loud and clear, and the game changed overnight. That breaking point came with his verse on Like That, where Kendrick dropped all subtlety, stripped away every layer, and left no room for guessing who he was talking about. Kendrick came out swinging, rejecting the whole Big Three narrative and tearing it down completely. He didn't just refuse to be grouped with Drake and J. Cole, he put himself above the conversation entirely. It wasn't just a diss, it was a declaration. Kendrick made it clear he wasn't here to share space, he was here to stand alone. And that hit hard, especially because Drake had publicly backed that Big Three idea for years. The message landed like a lightning strike, flipping the power dynamic right in front of everyone's eyes. Kendrick's verse on Like That carried precision and intent. Every bar was surgical. He painted dominance not as something built through features or industry clout, but through presence, legacy, and pure impact. He didn't ask for validation, didn't ask to be included. He separated himself completely. Within just a few hours, the whole focus shifted. What was supposed to be a Metro Boomin' and Future project suddenly became the center of a hip-hop earthquake. Fans went into overdrive, breaking down every lyric, every pause, every punchline. Artists started picking sides, and you could feel the tension rip through the industry. For Drake, ignoring that verse wasn't even on the table. Silence would have looked like surrender. Later, he claimed the beef had been bubbling long before Like That, and he wasn't wrong. Years of subliminals had already built this fire. That song just ripped the curtain wide open. Drake's response didn't come as an official drop, it leaked. On push-ups, he aimed heavy fire straight at Kendrick, mocking his size, questioning his relevance after years of silence, and trying to twist Kendrick's legacy into something selective and fragile. But Drake didn't stop there. He threw shots at others caught in the orbit too, dragging everyone deeper into the storm. What started as a two-man rivalry had now blown up into a full-on war zone. With just one verse, Kendrick flipped the entire landscape. He forced everyone to pick a side. There was no more sitting on the fence, no more pretending to stay neutral. Lines were drawn in permanent ink, and the game itself started shifting. This wasn't just rappers trading bars anymore. It was the whole industry realigning around a power struggle that had been brewing for years. And in the middle of that chaos, one of Drake's most complicated old relationships came creeping back into the spotlight, reopening wounds that never fully healed. Drake's counterattack wasn't built to sound polished or industry safe. It was pure impact. By leaking his diss tracks instead of dropping them officially, he made sure the message hit raw and unfiltered. No promo, no rollouts, just bars and energy meant to shake the room. Push-ups wasn't framed as one simple response. It was a warning shot in every direction, like Drake was clearing the field and daring anyone to step up. Kendrick was still the main target though. Drake came for his breaks between albums, mocked the long silences, and questioned whether Kendrick's masterpieces still had the same reach. He tried to downplay Kendrick's cultural weight, painting him as a legend in moments, but not a consistent force like himself. Every line screamed one message: Drake wasn't backing down. Not to Kendrick, not to anyone.
You didn't feel any way about his past with...
I don't care about nobody that predates me. Like nobody. That was before me. What the fuck I'm gonna do? Go back in the hands of time and rewrite history? Niggas be too insecure and dwelling on stupid shit. What the fuck that got to do with me? That's crazy. If that's the case, it'll be like I don't want her mad at the whole world. If she, like what we doing?
Drake's message came through loud and bold. For him, respect in the art didn't mean much compared to staying visible, dominant, and in control of the game. But push-ups didn't stop at Kendrick. Drake made sure the shots reached farther. He took aim at Future too, flipping their story and hinting that a big part of Future's early success was something he helped hand over. It wasn't subtle. It was Drake reminded everyone of the hierarchy he believed existed between them. Then came the shade toward Metro Boomin, and it hit different. Drake stripped away the idea of Metro as an artistic equal, reducing him to background noise, just a beat maker riding a wave instead of creating it. It was cold, calculated, and personal. What made it hit even harder was how wide Drake spread the fire. He didn't just focus on one name. He addressed everyone circling around him, making it clear that this wasn't a series of random beefs anymore. It felt like a full-blown alliance against him, and he was ready to fight them all. Fans caught on instantly. This was Drake admitting what the internet had already been whispering for months. It wasn't coincidence, it was coordinated. His tone shifted from confident competition to full confrontation. No more playful jabs, this was survival mode. The reaction split the crowd wide open. Some called it classic Drake, calm, sharp, and untouchable. Others saw cracks in the armor, saying he sounded defensive, maybe even rattled for feeling the need to clap back at so many people in a single track. But whether it came off as confidence or damage control, the plan worked. The spotlight snapped right back on him. Yet behind that comeback energy, push-ups also dug up ghosts from Drake's past, unresolved tensions and friendships that once ran deep. One connection in particular came roaring back, built on early loyalty, broken trust, and years of words left unsaid. But unlike all the other rivalries flaring up around him, this one hit different. It carried real emotion, not just competition. Few connections in Drake's story run as deep or as complicated as his history with The Weeknd. Before either of them became global icons, their paths were tightly intertwined, built on mutual belief, creative trust, and ambition that once felt unstoppable. Drake discovered The Weeknd's early music around 2010 and instantly knew there was something special there. By 2011, he was shouting him out publicly, collaborating, and putting his sound in front of audiences that had never heard anything like it. Their chemistry hit its peak during the creation of Take Care. The Weeknd's haunted melodies and moody writing didn't just fit the album, they defined its entire vibe. His influence gave Take Care that dark, atmospheric edge that helped cement it as one of Drake's most iconic projects. At the time, Drake was open about wanting to stay deeply involved in The Weeknd's rise. Word around the industry was that he planned to bring him fully under the OVO umbrella. But that vision fell apart in 2012 when The Weeknd signed with Republic Records instead. The move was business, but for Drake, it stung. He never made a big scene about it, but the disappointment was clear between the lines of interviews and posts. Publicly, both artists kept things cool, acting like everything was fine, but privately, the dynamic had shifted. That one decision added distance, and over time, it turned into quiet tension that never really went away. No open disses, no drama, just long silences and subtle hints of what could have been. Even years later, The Weeknd reflected on that moment, admitting that giving away songs meant for his debut album had been a tough call. It was regret mixed with respect, proof that behind all the fame, their bond had cracked in ways neither of them ever fully addressed. Even with all the tension and distance, The Weeknd never denied how much Drake's early cosign boosted his rise. He gave credit where it was due. Drake's belief in him opened major doors. By 2017, it looked like the two would patch things up. They were even spotted at each other's shows, smiling and showing love in public again. But in this game, unresolved issues never stay buried for long. Rumors started swirling once more, whispers about relationships, song ownership, and who really deserved credit for those early hits. Before long, both artists began sliding subtle jabs into their lyrics, just enough for fans to catch the shade. Drake later admitted that what really hurt wasn't the business side or the competition, it was the silence. Years went by without real communication between them, even while both sat on top of the world. That kind of gap says more than any diss ever could. His reflection made it clear this wasn't just rivalry, it was a partnership that had never truly healed. So when The Weeknd popped up years later, aligned with Metro Boomin and Future, everyone knew it wasn't coincidence, it was intentional. That feature wasn't just another song credit, it was a statement. For Drake, it reopened a chapter he probably thought was closed for good, one filled with old loyalty, pride, and unfinished emotions. And just as that wound was reopened, another name from Drake's past stepped into the mix, A$AP Rocky. His fallout with Drake followed a now familiar pattern: loyalty, success, and a friendship that started strong but eventually got tangled in ego, timing, and one person that changed everything. Neither Drake nor A$AP Rocky could dodge the crossroads their history eventually hit. Back in the early days of Rocky's come up, Drake played a major role in putting him on the map. He brought him out on tour, gave him major cosigns, and treated him like a peer instead of some rookie chasing fame. Rocky never downplayed it either. He openly credited Drake as the first big artist to truly believe in him. For a while, their connection looked solid. They made tracks together, hit events side by side, and moved through the same circles like brothers in the spotlight. Everything stayed cool until she came into the picture. Rihanna's name changed everything. Drake's admiration for her had never been a secret. It was written all over his interviews, his lyrics, even his award show moments. He didn't just like her, he was openly in love. His feelings weren't casual, they were intense, emotional, and real enough to play out in public for years.
She's someone I've been in love with since I was 22 years old. She's one of my best friends in the world. All my adult life, I've looked up to her even though she's younger than me. She's a living, breathing legend in our industry. Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Michael Jackson Vanguard Award for 2016, Rihanna.
Rocky's connection with Rihanna, on the other hand, grew in the shadows, slow, quiet, and away from all the noise. They had known each other for years, collaborating and touring, long before anyone caught on that there might be something deeper there. Then, by 2019, the truth surfaced. Their relationship became public. And by 2022, they had started a family together, locking in a bond that was no longer rumor, no longer speculation. It was real life. For Drake, that shift hit heavy, not just personally, but emotionally. What had once been a friendship built on loyalty and mutual success suddenly carried tension that neither of them could fully talk their way out of. That shift with Rihanna and Rocky clearly hit a nerve, and Drake didn't bother hiding it. On For All the Dogs, he dropped several verses that fans immediately picked apart, calling them obvious subliminals aimed straight at both Rihanna and Rocky. The vibe wasn't playful or competitive. It was sharp, bitter, and dripping with resentment. His lyrics questioned loyalty, threw shade at intimacy, and hinted at old wounds that had clearly never healed. In a few bars, Drake even took it a step further, mocking Rocky directly, flipping their history, and implying that he'd been there first. It wasn't just emotional, it was personal. Rocky, though, played it smart. He refused to get dragged into the chaos. No tweets, no interviews, no messy back and forth. When people tried to get a reaction out of him, he kept it cool, saying nothing and letting time and the music do the talking. But when his response finally came, it hit hard. On Metro Boomin and Future's second joint project, Rocky dropped one of the clearest statements in the entire saga. No subliminals, no confusion. He painted Drake as emotional, saying he was living in the past, stuck replaying moments that everyone else had already moved on from. That verse flipped the energy completely. It wasn't competition anymore, it was closure, and Rocky delivered it for the world to hear. From that moment on, it was clear he wasn't just another opponent in the mix, he had officially taken a side. And now, Drake wasn't just up against rivals, he was staring down former friends, people who once stood beside him, but now believed he had crossed lines that couldn't be walked back. Then came another surprise twist. Rick Ross entered the picture. His involvement shocked everyone because unlike most of the names circling Drake, Ross had always kept a solid, respectful relationship with him for over a decade. Drake and Rick Ross had always looked solid, brothers in music and business. They'd worked together plenty of times, dropped hit after hit, and even teased fans with the idea of a full joint album. As recently as the early 2020s, there wasn't a single sign that their bond was cracking. Their history only had one small bump, back when Drake was beefing with Meek Mill, who happened to be signed to Ross. Naturally, Ross stood by his artist, but once Drake and Meek made peace, the tension vanished fast. By 2017, the two were back in the studio, trading verses like nothing had ever gone wrong. Even in interviews through 2023, Ross spoke highly of Drake, calling their connection close and built on respect. That's what made what came next feel so shocking, because the shift wasn't loud, but it was felt. In early 2024, fans noticed Ross quietly unfollowed Drake on social media. No explanation, no drama, just silence that said everything. Not long after, Ross showed up on a project packed with energy that was openly anti-Drake. His verse didn't call names, but the placement alone spoke volumes. The internet caught it immediately. Ross had picked a side. Drake definitely noticed, and things got real personal. The tension hit a new level when Drake invited Ross's recently separated ex-girlfriend to one of his shows, and she didn't just attend quietly, she posted it. The message was impossible to miss. This was deliberate, a public move meant to sting. Shortly after, Drake's new diss track surfaced, taking direct aim at Ross. He mocked his age, questioned his current success, and even hinted that Ross's biggest records only hit the way they did because of him. The shots weren't playful, they were surgical. And unlike others who chose silence or subtlety, Ross fired right back, and he didn't hold anything back this time. Ross didn't hold back. He came swinging with a full-length diss track that went straight for Drake's reputation. No sneak disses, no coded shots, just direct fire. He accused Drake of leaning on ghostwriters, dodging real confrontation his whole career, and copying the styles of those who came before him instead of creating his own lane. The track painted Drake as an artist who was more constructed than authentic, a product of the system, not the streets. Ross didn't just question the music, he went for the image, calling him too polished, too calculated, too fake. Things got even nastier when Ross crossed the line and dragged Drake's family into it and made the feud deeply personal. That move changed the energy. It wasn't just about bars anymore, it was about pride and boundaries. Drake didn't clap back with another track this time. Instead, he hit back through public posts and mocking comments, signaling that he didn't see Ross as a real lyrical rival, more like someone trying to get attention. Then Ross dropped a twist of his own, claiming the beef didn't even start over music. According to him, Drake had allegedly sent legal pressure towards one of Ross's close associates, messing up the release of a potential project. That revelation flipped the narrative completely, turning what looked like ego-driven drama into a business-level betrayal. By then, the pattern was crystal clear. This wasn't just random beef popping up all at once. Every feud, every jab, every falling out was a part of a growing pile of broken alliances and bruised egos. It wasn't coincidence anymore, it was accumulation. Kanye West's role in the saga didn't carry the emotional history as Drake's other feuds. This one was built on something colder. Ego, suspicion, and years of unspoken tension. Their relationship was never rooted in loyalty or friendship. It was built on admiration that slowly turned competitive. Early in Drake's come-up, Kanye was both a mentor and a collaborator, helping shape his early sound with production, advice, and cosigns that boosted Drake's credibility in a major way. But that mentor energy didn't last long. It always came with friction hiding underneath.
For you to still be picking out a female and all that, that's soft to me. But I just don't fuck with them. Like, you know what I mean? We was once friends. I feel like it's over females.
But amid 2010s, the cracks were already showing. Kanye started expressing frustration publicly, complaining about how Drake dominated radio and streaming like he owned the game. He framed it as an industry imbalance, not direct jealousy, but everyone could tell it bothered him. Still, things didn't completely snap until 2018, when Drake's feud with Pusha T collided right into Kanye's circle. Kanye had produced Pusha's album, Daytona, the same project that contained one of the most brutal disses of Drake's career. Drake believed Kanye had played a part in leaking personal details that fueled the battle, and from that point, trust was gone. What followed was pure chaos, years of shots, interviews, and cryptic posts. Kanye accused Drake of sneak dissing him and even sending threats toward his family, while Drake fired back, calling Kanye manipulative and disloyal. What had started as mentorship had fully flipped into rivalry. Two of hip-hop's biggest powerhouses now circling each other with equal parts resentment and obsession. Apologies came and went, and every time they did, they unraveled just as fast. Even when Drake and Kanye seemed to find brief moments of peace, it never lasted. Every few years, one lyric, one offhand comment, or one wild rant would blow the whole thing back open again. By 2023, the tension had evolved into something new and way messier. Drake dropped a track that sampled Kanye's ex-wife, instantly reignited old flames of jealousy, speculation, and resentment. Whether Drake meant it as a direct shot or not didn't matter. To Kanye, it fit the same pattern he'd been calling out for years. So when Kendrick's Like That verse shook the entire rap world, Kanye saw his chance and jumped right in. But instead of aiming at Drake head-on, he flipped the situation, reframing the whole conflict into something bigger. On his remix, Kanye didn't just diss Drake, he went after the entire system. He started pointing fingers at corporate power, label executives, and the machinery behind the music industry, painting Drake as the perfect symbol of control and compliance. In Kanye's eyes, Drake wasn't independent, he was a product of the structure. This wasn't just another diss, it was an ideological strike. Kanye made the feud sound like a battle for artistic freedom versus industry loyalty, and his involvement hit hard because it confirmed what fans had been whispering. The pile-on against Drake was real. Another longtime rival had stepped up, not because of loyalty to Kendrick or Metro, but because of his own long-simmering bitterness. With Kanye in the mix, the conflict wasn't just about who ruled rap anymore. It became a fight over power, influence, and who truly ran the game. Every collaboration, every public appearance, every social media move started to feel like a clue. Fans analyzed everything, watching to see who was standing with Drake and who had quietly switched sides. But even with the industry seemingly turning against him, not everyone connected to Metro and Future was actually out to take him down. Some names got dragged into the storm just by being too close to the action. They weren't trying to pick sides, they were just caught in the blast. The biggest example? J. Cole. When all the disses were flying, Cole had just wrapped up a massive tour with Drake and had dropped a collab that framed them as equals, two heavyweights running the game together. So when Cole suddenly popped up on Metro Boomin and Future's project, the same one fueling the anti-Drake energy, the internet went wild. Fans instantly assumed he'd switched sides, but the truth was way simpler. His verse didn't contain a single jab, no subliminals, no slick wordplay, no hints at beef. The bars were clean, the vibe was neutral. The problem wasn't what he said, it was when he said it. The timing made it look shady, but anyone who really studied Cole's history knew he never plays politics in rap. He moves solo, loyal only to the craft, not the chaos. Then there was Travis Scott. His name got dragged into the mix for nearly the same reason. He featured on one of the albums linked to the anti-Drake movement, and fans assumed that meant smoke, but it didn't. His verse was all energy, no hostility. Even clips from Drake's tour performances got twisted online, with people saying Drake was throwing shade at Travis. In reality, those moments were just part of a planned performance bit tied to their joint hits. It was proof that in a feud this massive, proximity alone could make anyone look guilty, even when they weren't throwing a single shot. Drake even name-dropped Travis Scott in one of his own diss records, but instead of throwing shade, he spoke on him positively. That single move shut down most of the rumors about hidden tension between them. Then came Nav, another case where fans read too deep into simple social media moves. After Drake unfollowed Rick Ross, Nav did the same, and instantly people started spinning theories that he'd chosen a side. Drake didn't ignore it. He fired off a cryptic post quoting one of his own lyrics, a move fans took as sarcastic, maybe even a little petty. But beyond those small online gestures, nothing real came of it. Nav stayed quiet. No diss tracks, no interviews, no comments. He didn't jump into the drama or add fuel to the fire. The silence was neutral, but in a climate where every move looked like a chess play, neutrality itself was mistaken for disloyalty. These supposed rifts actually revealed something deeper. Not everyone around Drake had turned on him, but perception had gotten so twisted that even silence looked suspicious. In a moment where alliances were being exaggerated and gossip was running wild, every look, post, and collab got dissected like evidence in a case. The truth? The real story wasn't about everyone betraying Drake. It was about how fast the culture could flip, how quickly perception could turn quiet bystanders into supposed enemies.
Do you see this roster of people behind me? That is a lot of people, and I don't even think I got everybody. But this is a list of people that Drake was sneak dissing, and Drake just don't like them, and then they find out, and now they don't like Drake. But Drake started at 97%.
And when you pull all the threads together, the backlash against Drake doesn't come from one major mistake. It comes from accumulation. Years of being on top, of controlling charts and headlines, and finally built a pressure that was impossible to escape. Very few artists ever climbed to the level Drake reached, untouchable. He wasn't just successful, he was everywhere. Commercially unstoppable, culturally unavoidable, and deeply rooted in the business side of music. That kind of position brings massive power, but it also builds walls. The higher he rose, the more distance appeared between him and everyone else around him. For some, the issue was loyalty. Former collaborators felt like they were used, then pushed aside once their part in the story was done. For others, it was ego, the constant public rankings, the quiet shade, the offhand comments that stuck longer than Drake probably ever intended. And then there were the personal ties that mixed too closely with business, the blurred lines where emotions and music collided, leaving behind bitterness that never really faded. Control played a big role too. Drake came to represent stability, the safe, predictable center of an industry built on chaos and rebellion. His consistency, while legendary, also made him a symbol of the establishment, the status quo. For artists who saw themselves as disruptors or underdogs, that made him the perfect target. Dissing Drake stopped being just about him. It became a statement against what he represented: dominance, control, and predictability. But what separates this moment from every other controversy before it is the scale. This wasn't a few random beefs bubbling up, it was overlapping energy. One spark triggered another, and old grudges started finding new life across shared albums, mutual collaborators, and perfectly timed releases. Once that door opened, the silence broke. People who had been quiet for years finally spoke up, one after another. Now the question hangs heavy. Will this storm actually reshape Drake's legacy, or will it just prove how unshakable he really is? He survived major feuds before, walking away chart-topping and untouched every single time. But this wave feels different, less like a rivalry and more like a reckoning. It's rare to see the entire industry move against one of its biggest icons, a moment where dominance itself sparks resistance. After more than a decade of control, Drake's reign finally hit a wall built from years of grudges, alliances, and silence breaking all at once. The real question isn't why so many artists came forward, it's why it took this long. Maybe it was fate, maybe timing, or maybe everyone was just waiting for that one crack in the armor to finally appear. So now it's on you. Was this an overdue reckoning for Drake, a moment of truth that had to happen, or just the industry seizing a rare chance to hit him while he looked vulnerable for the first time? Let's hear it. Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're locked in, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives like this.